Imagine a single, narrow stretch of water on a map suddenly slams shut. What happens to the rest of the world? Well, today we're going to walk through a fictional but totally plausible scenario, the closure of the Strait of Hormuz and the incredible chain reaction that follows. Okay, let's get into it.
To really get why this matters so much, you have to start with this number. A full quarter of all oil that moves by ship on this planet has to squeeze through this one choke point. It's not just some shipping lane. It is the world's energy artery.
So how does an artery like that get blocked? Well, in our scenario, it all kicks off with a military conflict that escalates, and fast.
And when I say fast, I mean unbelievably fast. It all starts on February 28, 2026, with airstrikes. Iran retaliates almost right away with its own attacks, and by March 2nd, we're talking just a couple of days later, Iran's IRGC is hitting merchant ships and basically telling the world this strait is closed for business.
Okay, so the world's main oil tap just got cranked shut. The first, most immediate shockwave, of course, hits the energy markets. And the way they reacted, well, it was something else.
The speed of the price jump was just staggering. Look at this. Before the crisis, Brent crude oil is trading at a calm $72 a barrel. Within 10 days, it blows right past the $100 mark and eventually peaks at an eye-watering $126. The market wasn't just spooked, it was in a full-blown panic. Just let that sink in for a second. We're not just talking about a big price hike. This was the largest single-month jump in oil prices ever recorded. This wasn't a slow-burn crisis. It was an explosion.
So how does this stack up against other major crises we've seen? Well, the price surge was faster than the 1970s energy crisis, faster than the Gulf War, and faster even than the market's reaction to the invasion of Ukraine. And in terms of pure scale, you'd have to go back 50 years to find an energy disruption this big.
And you know, this wasn't just some abstract problem for Wall Street traders. These price spikes created real-world pain immediately. Countries that depend heavily on imported fuel, especially in the developing world, were suddenly facing massive shortages, panic at the pumps, and economies grinding to a halt.
But here's the thing. This crisis was about so much more than just oil. Turns out, the Strait of Hormuz is a choke point for a whole bunch of other critical stuff, which led to what analysts started calling the everything shortage.
Yeah, because the strait isn't just for oil tankers. Think about these numbers. About a third of the world's traded urea and ammonia, which you need for fertilizer, goes through here. A third of the entire global helium supply, which is critical for making semiconductors and running MRIs, and a staggering 45% of the world's sulfur. And the fallout from that was instant. The lack of sulfur slammed industrial processes like copper mining. And the urea shortage, it happened right in the middle of the spring planting season for the Northern Hemisphere, which sent absolute shockwaves through the entire agricultural world.
And an analyst pointed out something here that is absolutely crucial. See, with oil, many countries have strategic reserves to kind of cushion the blow. But for fertilizer, there's no global stockpile. There's no backup plan. When the supply gets cut, the shortage hits almost instantly, and it's way harder to deal with.
And this is why this is such a big deal. A fertilizer shortage means smaller harvests and higher costs for farmers. And guess what? That translates directly into higher food prices for every single one of us, with experts warning that these ripple effects could be felt well into the next year.
You know, beyond all the economic chaos, there was a very real and very immediate human cost to this whole blockade. Thousands of ordinary people were suddenly trapped right in the middle of a hot conflict zone. Just try to wrap your head around this number. 20,000 seafarers on over 2,000 ships were just stuck inside the Gulf, basically floating targets, unable to leave, with their supplies starting to run low.
And it wasn't just the professional mariners. Imagine you're on vacation. 6 major cruise ships with 15,000 passengers on board were also caught inside the Gulf. Your luxury holiday just turned into an absolute nightmare. And the danger out there was no joke. This table just shows a few examples. The oil tanker MT Skylight had to be abandoned and 2 crew members were killed. A tugboat, the Musafa II, was sunk, killing 4. A container ship was straight up captured by the IRGC. Even a cruise ship had a near miss and got direct threats before it managed to get out of there. So, with the main artery completely blocked, the entire world went into a frantic scramble, looking for any possible workaround to get these critical supplies moving again.
The most obvious plan B was the existing pipelines. Countries like Saudi Arabia and the UAE started diverting their oil to ports on the Red Sea and the Arabian Sea. But here was the big problem: capacity.
All those pipelines put together could handle about 9 million barrels a day. The Strait of Hormuz normally handles over 20 million. It wasn't even half.
And these backup plans were leaky, to say the least. Besides not having enough capacity, the Red Sea route was a sitting duck for Houthi attacks, which only got worse during the crisis. And even the ports in Oman, which are technically outside the strait, were getting hit by drones. It felt like nowhere was truly safe.
In the end, all of this unprecedented chaos just sent a chill through the global economy. Investor confidence absolutely cratered. Nations that rely on energy imports got hit the hardest, and suddenly, every economist was talking about recession and stagflation, that really toxic mix of a shrinking economy and rising prices.
So when you step back and look at the whole picture, this entire global crisis, this nightmare scenario, all of it started because one 21-mile-wide strait got shut down. And it really forces us to ask a tough question. In a world so dependent on these fragile choke points, can any of our supply chains ever be considered truly secure?